to another Brew with the Crew. I'm Hugh, this is Lee. Today we're talking about tenant-to-tenant migrations.
What sort of scenarios do we see for people to do tenant-to-tenant migration? And most importantly, for my benefit, what is a tenant-to-tenant migration?
That's a good question. So first, to answer your question, what is a tenant-to-tenant migration? If you have an Office 365 tenant right now, and you need to move data from one tenant to another, that's what we're talking about, tenant-to-tenant migration.
And why would I do that? Why would I need to move between one tenant to another? What scenario would drive me to do that?
So, I mean, Microsoft have long had the stance, and nothing seems to be changing around. There's no innate migration method between two tenants, right?
Okay.
So if you need to change the name of the tenant, you need to change the region of the tenant.
Because why changing a name because a business changes name, or
business changes names, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or and then the other scenarios we see more often these days are mergers and acquisitions and divestitures.
Yeah.
So
okay. That makes sense.
people buying other companies or splitting apart, and they need to take the data away from them.
Okay.
So lots of complex scenarios, unfortunately, that brings up.
That's where I was going to go. What are the complexities in that?
Yeah, lots of different complexities. So the underlying data, the underlying identity, or how do we split out who owns what? You know, those sorts of things from a divestiture, or how do we bring things together in a coherent way on a merger? Are very complex subjects, and especially if there's other migrations going on at the same time. Maybe CRM or Active Directory, or the whole business could be joining up.
Right. Is it fair to say here that there's not then just a sort of next migration tool that you can use?
Absolutely. Well, there are migration tools out there, right? And they do migrate data, but in the complex scenarios and where you need to have a good experience,
you need a methodology.
It's generally better to engage someone to help you out that's done it before, because there are issues, especially with the cutover of domains and how you retain data in both places for a period of time. How you stage the process that make a difference.
Okay. And how often do you sort of see this kind of thing going on? Do we get requests for this on a weekly basis, monthly basis? Is it a common thing right now?
It's very common. Yeah. As more businesses move to 365, the scenarios become more common. That more acquisitions and mergers are happening, right? So and divestitures. So everyone's now, some part of them is in 365. Almost everyone, sorry, not everyone, I'm sure. And getting those businesses apart or together. That's what we're talking about.
So if I'm in a situation, I'm in a certain executive board, and we've made a decision that we're going to split off part of our business. Tell me, what's the process for me to actually begin that journey? Yeah,
right. So first thing is the underlying legalities of how you have to split things, right? Because there's always probably if it's a divestiture, there's legal ramifications to keeping data or bringing it with you. And same thing with the merger and acquisition, right? You have to make sure that maybe there might have to be a war between the new company and the old company and the new tenant. So lots of different considerations. So I think some of the biggest considerations are what's the underlying migration process, and what else has to migrate at the same time, and what pieces do we do first, right? Frequently we found
that's going to be the challenge, right? Like we find,
what order?
Exactly, and a lot of things that we discuss is what's the right way to do things instead of let's just grab that and put it there. Right? So do we have a defined migration methodology that we follow that gives us a robust outcome?
Absolutely, and unfortunately, there's lots of different scenarios out there, so we've tried to cater for all of them. But there seems to be new scenarios happening every day.
So some agility needed in discovery, right?
Yeah, but we've built a robust tenant-to-tenant process now. We've got a list of considerations like a mile long, I would say. And we need to consider every single one of those during the process. And we call it our gotchas list, right? Which is just
that makes sense.
It's hundreds of them, and it's not just technical considerations. This is business.
So this is all the stuff that we know we've done heaps of times before. These are the lessons that we've learned over the years.
Absolutely.
These are the things that you need to consider prior to. So if I'm that executive, that gotcha list is going to be magic for me, right? I want to look at that and say, do I have any of these things I need to consider? Because I've got to trust these people to do this. But do I fall into any of those categories?
Absolutely, and especially if you've got complex environments set up in 365, you may have governance in there. You may have information protection. Computers joined to certain Azure domains. There's so many different things you have to consider. If you have a complex environment, it's also almost impossible to do without.
So it's not, by a long shot, it's not a trivial piece of work.
Absolutely not. Without help,
I mean, clearly, Azure and M365 has evolved over the years and improved, and as you'd expect it to. Has tenant-to-tenant migrations improved over the years?
Yeah, so we've worked with a lot of vendors, toolset vendors, and
Yep.
and we've done a lot of tenant migrations now, and we found that we've streamlined the process,
Yep.
and the vendors have improved. Some of them have, anyhow. Toolset vendors, we can now do tenant migrations at speeds of a terabyte an hour. Have been achieved on a consistent basis.
Yeah, that's fast.
Which means we can bring an enterprise migration down from 25 days down to a couple of days.
Yeah, because that's what they would have been like 3 or
Yeah.
4 years ago, right? Migrations, my experience seeing them from a distance is they take a long time,
Yeah,
a lot of planning, and there's a lot of angst around the time it takes. So now we're saying that's significantly faster.
so quick. Yeah,
Right.
and using next gen sort of infrastructure, that is, right,
Yep.
PaaS and whatnot,
Yep.
they can really streamline that process, and they have, and it really works.
Awesome.
Yeah. Also, we've now got the ability to do tenant migrations that sit in your own environment. So the data doesn't leave your environment to a third-party tool set anymore
Okay.
as
Yeah,
well.
that's-
So
that's-
it
yeah.
can be hosted or it can be on-prem.
Yeah.
So
But that could potentially deal with data sovereignty and everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
if you're security conscious or there's a governance issues because you're doing a divestiture and you really don't want data to leak, this is a way to do it, and it doesn't cost
Sweet.
you much more at all.
So absolutely evolved.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Anyhow, guys, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Cheers.